Okay, so we're going to try to make this seamless within 15 minutes for assessment. Alright, so imagine you're logged into your Google Drive, you go to More, we go to Forms. Create a new form. I'm going to create a blank. We'll call it a pre-assessment. Okay, so where are questions? You see there's a response tab. We'll explain that later on. Okay? So, form description. This is a pre-assessment for my ACI 522 class. Okay, so then we go into questions. Alright, so untitled question, and we obviously have multiple choice. You'll see you have options, right? So, of which we can collect different data in. I'm just going to use multiple choice in this case. I don't really want to do anything else at this point. So, the question is going to be, what was the So what was the learning framework introduced in Module 5? Okay, so we don't have to see whether it's right or wrong. We do have to make it required though. So we make sure that they actually do that. We want to add something else, so we can add another question. It's going to drop in below. Again, it's going to default to multiple choice, but you can always change that. If you're using visuals, you can drop in visuals, okay, as an item. Okay, and then you can just drag it in place above the question that you want them to answer. So you want to see that, I'll make sure we see that right now. So I'll upload and we'll use, again, something redonkulous. Okay, so there's the picture. Okay, so image title. Okay, and we're below question 2. Okay, so image title, question 2, prompt. Okay, and then that's fine the way it is. Take that and we'll drag it above that question there, and then question 2. Okay, again, I'll make it required because I want them to answer that question. So we can go on and on and on and on, and that's great, but we don't need to. So once we're there and we've got it done, I'll title this my pre-assessment, and I'll just create W8 for week 8. So all changes have already been saved on the drive. You see that, right? Then if I want to preview the form, what it's going to look like, it's going to look like that. Okay, so I've got my assessment data. If I go back, or my assessment prompts, okay, I can change the palette if I want to make it prettier, etc. I can change the settings, so who can respond, anyone at Ashland University, can be anyone, and they can only submit one response. That's if there's a login for that. So then I hit save. If I hit send, okay, so I can send by email, okay, or I can create it a link. What we're going to do is we're going to end up creating a shortened URL. You'll copy that, and when you go to deploy this assessment, you'll deploy it on your course like that. Okay, so if I take this over into Wikispaces and use this as a link in Wikispaces, then it's not a problem, right? Okay, so once we've got that set up, if I go to responses, okay, I don't have any responses just yet, but we're going to see those in a minute because I'm going to go to live form. So if I go to the preview again, okay, so I go to the preview again. I'm going to actually enter in the correct answers this time for myself because I need more than one response. Okay, then I'm going to go back to it one more time, and we won't do any of that. We'll go back to the original. Okay, so once I've got that done, what I can do is I can look at this in a different type of form. So if I go back to responses, you see this icon here. This actually will create the responses, which is what we have right now. Create the responses and send them over to Google Sheets. And we're going to create a new sheet. Okay, so that basically shows me what was entered in each of those instances. So if I'm doing pre-assessments, that's okay because I get a distribution. I'll have an idea of where the problem is without putting a grade on it. Okay, now if I want to put a grade on it, all right, and make it self-grading, then what I'll do is I'll go to add-ons. I'll add in Floobaroo. If you don't have it, you have to hit get add-ons, and you'll look for Floobaroo. So I've got it already installed, so I'll do that. I'll hit enable Floobaroo for this sheet. I'm going to give it permission to run. It's going to run as me. Okay, so now I'll go back up to add-ons, go to Floobaroo again. Okay, I'm going to go to grade assignment. Okay, so what we're doing is we'll do 1 point per. All right, so one for question 1, 1 for question 2. Grading options, we can grade by hand, skip grading, identify student. Okay, so that means I would have had to build in an identifier for my students to grade. So in the first one, if that identifies student, we don't identify points with that. Okay. And then we'll identify which one's the grading key. Okay, so now you see where it went wrong was the fact that I didn't have who the submission is from. So what I'll do is I'll go back to my form at this point. Okay, go back to questions. I'll dump in another question. Change it from multiple choice to short answer. All right, and then we've got that whole thing. Okay, so we've got the same thing. I'm going to go here, all right, and back to my sheet again. In this case, I'm going to knock out all the data that's in my sheet. So I'm going to delete this sheet. So I'll go back here. Move it to trash. And go to Sheets Home. Okay, so then I'll go back to my data again. So that just dumped all my data. So if I go back to the live form again, let me close up some of this other stuff first. So if I go back to the live form again, you'll see we actually have the name, right? So if I go there, I'm going to do a couple of responses. So I'll do John Doe. And I noticed that I have two of the same thing, which is also incorrect. So let's try one more time with feeling, okay? Okay, so then it's all saved. Again, then we deploy it. Look at the preview. Let's try one more time. John Doe. John Doe selects, he gets that one right. We don't know that yet, though. And we'll call it a top hat. I'm just going to submit another response. Dr. Ellis. Dr. Ellis needs to put in the correct answers, otherwise it won't show the right grades. So that will do Jane Doe. And we're going to get Jane Doe to have the right answers too. Okay, so then what I'll do is, again, I'll go back to the non-live form. I'll go here, again, go to responses. Okay, I'll go back to my table of responses. Okay, these two I know are garbage still, so if I put extraneous data in there, that's okay. I'm going to go to add-ons, Floobaroo, regrade assignment, because I now have more instances. Yes. Okay, so now we'll look at the right thing. So we know that the name field, right, is actually identifies the student, and then the other two are normal grading. So I hit continue. Okay, so the correct answer is this one that belongs to me. So that'll grade everybody else's compared to mine. And then that's what it's going to look like in terms of your assessment output. So if I go grades, there's your student submission, there's your grades. So there's Jane Doe and John Doe I'm taking out of the equation, and we can see exactly how well they did in each of the two questions.